Halo, apa kabar teman-teman Urban Dukun? Ketemu lagi dengan saya Karmen, dan saya adalah founder dari Urban Dukun, a safe space to grow soulfully. Kami ingin teman-teman merasa aman dan merasa nyaman dimanapun Anda berada, supaya Anda bisa mengambil perjalanan penyembuhan, yaitu perjalanan untuk masuk ke dalam diri Anda sendiri. Healing happens when you take that journey within yourself. And today, we are going to talk about a very important part that happens when you start the journey within. You start getting connected to yourself. You start knowing who you are. And you start knowing and connecting to this big word that we hear all the time, intuition. And to talk about intuition, I have with us Scarlett from Singapore, who's introducing a modality called Energy Shift and Insights. Hello, Scarlett.
Hi, Karmen.
Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
On the last time we talked, we dwelled heavily on what is energy shift and insight. But you also mentioned several times on the big I word, intuition.
Yeah.
And having experienced your
Yes.
modality, intuition plays such a big part.
Yes,
Yep.
it does. Yeah. Intuition is a big part of life, actually. Yeah.
I was just wondering, because every time somebody said or commented or even giving compliments of how intuitive I am, I budged. Like, huh? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people have that same reaction. It's almost like an instantaneous reaction because the collective consciousness still has that big fear and that big question of, what is intuition used for? And, is it safe to be intuitive? Because a lot of times people actually associate being intuitive with psychic. Are you psychic? And, all of these words, somehow there's still a fear that's associated with these words. But I love what Marianne Williamson said. She is such a famous teacher in the US, and, she has this famous quote where she says that what we truly fear at the core of it is not something else other than our own greatness. Okay, this is like a abbreviated version of a quote, but and I feel that the intuitive part of us is actually what contains that greatness of ourselves, and therefore a lot of times we are afraid. We're afraid of the part of us that actually knows, that part of us that actually has the answers. But because everyone else doesn't seem to have the answer, everyone else doesn't seem to want to own up to that power within themselves, it's safer for us to remain, like, oh, I'm just like anyone out there. But intuition is such a personal thing. Like, everyone has our own intuition. So I feel like when people come to that sense of understanding that my intuition works for me and your intuition works for you, then, there's no fear to claim that intuition. It's just like, your gut system worked for you, my own gut system worked for me, and you just have to work with your own. And that's it. That's all there is to it. But it is such an important tool for us to have a sense of this world. Like, how can I make use of this extra sensory perception so that I can, use that to navigate this world, to help me to, know, where should I go? When should I go? When should I not go? When should I say yes? And when should I say no? And, all of these actually comes from exercising our intuition. So while the logical mind can help us to learn knowledge and to distill and discern information, it is really the intuitive mind that's helping to make that decision. Yeah.
Okay. Two things that is very interesting. First is an extrasensory perception. And the last one is an intuitive mind. So a lot of people believe that they do not have the extrasensory perception, but everybody has a mind.
That everybody actually has that intuitive mind and also the extrasensory perception.
Oh.
Why do I say that, right? Like, we can just walk into a room and we can immediately sense what's happening in the room. You know, it's like like my daughter calls it, read the room, bro. Yeah, right? Like it's reading the room. When you enter a space, you can actually feel, oh, this is really light and nice and joyful. And then, or you can step into space and feel like, oh, something is off, you know, like it feels off, like someone is upset, someone is angry. There's a heaviness in this house,
Like,
for
what's
example.
going on? Yeah. A lot
Yeah.
of people, they just cannot pinpoint the word to explain it,
Yes,
but the sense is there.
the sense is there. Either they can feel it, they have a knowing of it, or, you know, like they just somehow, maybe something flash in their mind, like whether it's the inner mind, the inner eye, the inner ear, or for some people it's even, you know, like they can actually smell something. Yeah, or even taste something.
So people, what you're saying is that what people perceive that differently.
Yes, all of us have, you know, all of these senses, but all of us have a slightly different degree of sensitivity. And some of us may, you know, I love it when people go for meditation and they come out and they say, I can't see anything. I can't see anything.
yeah.
Like I have no information. Like I didn't get anything out of that meditation. And a lot of times my friends who are like that, I'll ask them, did you feel something? And they'll be like, yeah. I mean, I feel this, but I didn't see that. We're like, oh, come on, right? Like you actually felt something, and that is your sense. And a lot of times when we talk to, you know, people who are practicing modalities as well, or like they're just starting out, and then they say, okay, I don't know how I know that, but this is, you know, I think it's like that, right? Like when you're reading a person, and they say, I don't know how I know. And these people are actually, you know, they're having that extra sensory perception in their knowingness. They actually are, you know, what we call claircognizant. Yeah.
Claircognizant.
Claircognizant.
You just know.
You just know. Like you may not see it, but you know it, right? Yeah.
Yes. So every time I said to someone, just don't ask me how I know.
Yeah. So that's like claircognizant. Yeah.
Yeah, you just know.
You
It
just
popped
know.
out of the nowhere.
Yeah, out of nowhere, like I'm not filtering that information. I'm just, you know, like this is how it feels like. I'm telling you, this is what I know, right? So people who are claircognizant may not see, but they just know it. And then there would be people who are feeling, they're clairsentient, but they can't see anything. They can't hear anything. So what they need to do is then they need to ask themselves, what does this, you know, sensation make me feel? Is it fear? Is it excitement? Is it something in the air? So when they actually go deeper into each of this sensing, they would know how to tap into and clearly know what this muscle of theirs is. And then as they develop their muscle fully and they train themselves to ask that right question, they will be able to perceive a lot of things that's way beyond what they usually already know. And I love it because actually a lot of times we know, but we doubt ourselves because it would be kind of like, okay, I think it's there, but let's stop there because I don't want to have too much information because I wouldn't know what to do with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting, because when let me just go back a bit on the clairsentience. When you
Yeah.
said they feel it, so it's
Yeah.
a bodily, physical sensation.
It's a physical sensation. Yeah, they could feel like some sort of energy run through their body, or they could feel cold, or they could feel uncomfortable,
Goosebumps.
goosebumps.
Okay.
Yeah. And then goosebumps, there's different quality to it.
Okay.
Some are like goosebumps because it did not feel right. It feels scary. And then there are truth bumps.
Truth bumps. New word.
Truth bumps. There are a lot of people who's it's been circulating, I think, out there. I'm not the first one to start using it. But the truth bumps, it happens. Like, you know, sometimes when you say something that is really true, and if you're talking to someone who's as sensitive or maybe even more sensitive, and sometimes you know, we have that saying in the field, right? It's like, oh my God, I'm feeling it. Like, ooh, like everything just like zoom. There's a sense of all your hair raising, but
Yeah,
in a
it's like
good way.
electricity wave,
Yeah.
like slowly rising.
Yes.
Yeah, or a wave, like
Yeah.
some sort of a wave. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's clairsentience.
Yeah. Yes. And then there are people who are clairaudient. So people who kind of hear messages. So somehow it could be a song, it could be like a sentence flash across their mind. And I also noticed that people who are clairaudient, they tend to see the words or hear the words. Let's say, like they could be pointed to a sign and then they read that word and it's like, that word, it pops, right? So the words, the songs, the sounds have a big effect on people who are clairaudient. They may hear, like a bird call, or they may hear a ping go off somewhere, and it's such a big sign for them because they are the ones who are listening. Yeah.
So it can be a random song playing or random song playing on their head.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a memory of a certain song, and they would
Yes.
able to decipher it. That would be a
Yes.
clear audio.
Yeah, because it would be a certain phrase that comes, right? Because they're like, let's say it's a whole entire song, but it would be that phrase that pops like immediately, that comes up, and then we're, oh, okay.
So it's different than having a song looping in your head, right? Or that too.
Or that too, right? Depending on the context of the situation. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we got the clear audio,
Clairaudient
clairaudient.
people, and then there's the clairsentient people, there's the claircognizant people, and then there is also the clairgustans and clairaliens, so people who can smell, people who can taste. So for example, smell, right? Like if you smell something nice, or you could smell also a very specific smell without knowing, and then it gives you a message, like search that up. Or if you already know what that means for you, often it gives you some confirmation. And you could also smell something that's not good, right? Like when you're talking about situation, and then if you suddenly get a smell like ooh, or you get a feeling of like, oh, it smells like that, then that's your extrasensory perception of the smell informing you that maybe this person, this situation, this project, this timing is not right, or this place is not right. Yeah.
Can you train your senses?
You can. You absolutely can. There are little exercises to do this. Yeah.
So basically, what you're saying, intuition is involved in a muscle
Yeah.
that is correlated to a sense, and you can train them
You
through
can
your
train
sense.
them. Yeah. Because once you become aware that all of us have access, like
Yes.
it's innate in all of us, then you can exercise that, right? Like, I mean, if you're gonna go train in the gym, you're gonna train one muscle, it's definitely gonna grow. Yeah.
Oh, what do you call people who see things?
People who see things, clairvoyants.
Clairvoyance, the famous
Yeah, the
clairvoyance.
clairvoyant people, yeah, we forgot about them because it's so usual.
Yes.
Right? So many people are able to see certain things, either in their mind's eye, or who knows, some of them can actually see it in real life, right? Like people who can see auras.
Yep.
Yeah. People who can see light, people who can see all kinds of things.
So, because clairvoyance is the one that is so commonly known, maybe there are people out there in the audience, maybe it's you, that actually have the other clairs
Yeah.
and doesn't
No.
think much about it.
Yeah.
They don't think that it's the senses that leads them to their intuition.
Yeah.
It's the door towards the intuition.
Yeah. And I always say, you make use of what you know strongest, and you use that first, and then the rest of it can come. And a lot of times we have more than one that is actually working together. We are just not aware of it. Yeah.
Awareness is a big thing in this intuition field. Yeah. Do you have any practical tips you can give our friends here, other than the one who's seeing?
Yeah, I'll say that really, you have to really take note of how you sense extra information. And then the other thing is, this is extremely practical. Keep yourself in tip-top healthy condition. Because a lot of times people are too tired, they are too stressed out, they are not sleeping well, right? And then they are not drinking well, they are not having sunshine, like all the very simple, practical, everyday healthy tips. When we are in good healthy condition, when we are relaxed and open, when our energy field is open, that's when we are clearest about our sensing.
Okay, so when you are in a highly stressful condition, your intuition doesn't work as well, or your perceived your ability to perceive them.
So for people who already have access to their intuition, have been following their intuition all the time, even if they're highly stressed, it's a muscle that they have already, and they would make use of that. But if you're someone who's never been aware and you're still in that stressful condition and situation, very often you're closed up energetically, and that's when you cannot access it, or you may get jumbled up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it's because of the external stress, right? Your coping mechanism to external stress that cause you to be cope up. Like, how can people differentiate that than the other very up and coming terms? So I'm setting up boundaries.
How do we discern that from boundaries? Well, I feel like because boundaries are there because we want to be sure that our own energy is not depleted, right? But when it comes to sensing, we can have a boundary, but we can still sense, right?
Yes.
Yeah. We can have a boundary where we say, I need to just be aware of where my energy is and where it goes to. When my energy is within myself, I can sense things better because I know my energy is here. And then when I sense into whatever is outside of me, I know that it's coming from outside of me. But if we have no boundaries, and a lot of times the very highly sensitive people are actually very intuitive, and a lot of them are actually empathic. That's the one more layer. When you're empathic, you're absorbing all the energies around you. You're absorbing everybody's thought forms, emotions, and frequencies, and that's where you have no boundary, and then you're not clear. Like, is this mine? Is this someone else's? And very often, sometimes you walk in the rooms and suddenly you have a huge headache. It's like, oh my God, I'm suddenly having a headache and I don't know where it's coming from. Yeah, that happens, I think, to a lot of people.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that means that not everybody is empathetic. I mean, yes, we have empathy, but not empathetic to the sense that we feel other people's emotion as if they're our own. We can't tell the difference.
Yeah, so the empathic people, if they are not fully aware of their empathic nature, they are actually a lot of times just like energetic sponge absorbing everyone else's problems. And very often these are also the people who are big healers, natural healers, because they are able to process that for someone else. But then, then that means that these people really need to, get into some form of actual knowing of how to handle these energies that's coming from other people. Then they can be, like healthy healers in that sense. Otherwise, they are like just, oh, I'm a natural healer. I'm absorbing everything.
And collapse.
And collapsing. Most of the time, they're so tired, after huge interactions. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any tips on how to clear blocks or clear of those things that can actually weaken our intuition? Or you see, if we're empathic and we do not know how to put that boundaries, then we won't be able to discern which one is our intuition and which one is we take from something else.
So I would say that it's really helpful to actually learn a form of energy work, because then from there you know how to help the other people. And a lot of times these modalities may support you to learn, like, when is it mine, when is it someone else's. Yeah, so I would feel like that would be one very important part. And I always joke, I have this joke with my friends. I always say that education is outdated because actually the true education should encompass all these things. How we always grow up and we realize that nobody taught us about relationship, nobody taught us about money, nobody taught us about all the extraordinary abilities, the gifts that we already come with in the human body. Yeah, so if only we can take care of ourselves this way, then we would be better able to navigate the world.
So in a sense that intuition is there to help us navigate the world.
Yes, it is. It is a true compass, because what works for one person may not work for another, simply
Right.
because there's so many factors involved, right? When we are in this world, we are not just creating, we are co-creating. everyone else around us have their own, purpose, agenda, goals, and every space that we're in, it could be very nice now, but it could be something else in a minute because something changed, something shifted. Yeah. So what works for one may not work for another because of all kinds of factors involved.
And you also need to know which senses is your door towards your intuition.
Yes. And always keep a openness so that you can receive information in a variety of ways.
Okay. How do you differentiate intuition to instinct or plain fear?
Okay, so sometimes instinct and intuition is like close together, but fear is very different from intuition in a sense of, because if there's an instinct to protect yourself, like it's important, it's also intuitive at the same time, right? Like, let's go. But when it comes from a fear response or reaction, more like a reaction, right? Like when you're fearful and you have this reaction where you say that, you're going to react in a certain way, you'll sense that it's fear, basically, and that intuition is different. When it's informing you that you need to do something, usually you feel very, like there's a very deep calmness, even if you're having this, sometimes when you're having an intuition and you know that you must immediately do something,
Yes.
you do feel a rush of energy, but that rush of energy is actually a very strong, courageous rush of energy.
Right.
Versus if, it's like coming from like a frazzled, like anxious reaction where, you're gonna like, no, I need to stop this, right? It's very different. The quality is different. There's a deep sense of calm and courage when it's intuition.
And usually, especially when you're just starting to know your intuition, and if you get a biggie, usually the fear or the denial comes right after.
Yes, because it's like, oh my God, like, did I just dream that up, right? Like, and can I do that? If I do that, will it serve me? Like, oh my God, I'm getting such a big sign to do that, but I'm afraid because I've never done it before. So I feel like one of the things that, like one of the biggest thing that intuition is a gift to us is that it also teaches us to develop trust in ourselves. And
that's huge.
Yeah, that is huge because when we don't listen to our intuition, we cannot develop trust. And, we have this big conversation between one of my very big soulmate last time. We always talk about this. We say that, trust can only happen when you trust yourself. You cannot trust someone else unless you have trust in yourself. Yeah. So trusting in someone is like you're putting your power into someone's hand. But trusting yourself, it is empowering.
Is it okay to share a story how you learn to trust your intuition?
Wow, okay. I feel like maybe that the most maybe one of the very important one was when I first started my journey and I was sharing I was having a pilgrimage in Japan.
Right.
So at that time, I was still fresh from the corporate world, but I was, searching for myself. And then I went on the pilgrimage, and this pilgrimage is really cute. You are given a hand-drawn map book, and you're supposed to follow this hand-drawn map book around this island. And then there would also be little signages left behind by other pilgrims of the past so that you get a sense of where to go. And I remember there was this time when I reached this place, and this whole entire place was just overgrown with weeds. So the path wasn't clear. Like whatever was drawn on the map, I couldn't see it at all. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, is it here or is it there? And then there's one signage here and there's another sign there. But everything else is like, it's overgrown. So my, my very logical mind says, follow the map, right? Let's just follow the map because the map, like, maybe, I have to do that because I'm still very, left brain at that point in time in terms of doing things. So I was like, okay, I'm going to follow the direction. Like, don't try to be creative, Scarlett, just go that way. So I did that. But somehow there was a feeling deep inside myself that no, that's not the right way, you got to go the other way. So I said, okay, let's do what the map says first. And there's a sign hanging there, but there's also another sign hanging there, but never mind, we do what the book says. Go by the books. So I did that. And guess what? Couldn't find any way out after 5 minutes, and I had to retrack back. And then finally I said, courage. This way look like there's no way out because it's overgrown, right? And I literally had to beat down the bushes, clear the way for myself through the long, tall grown weeds, and that's the right way. And it was under the hot blazing sun, but that was the right way. So follow that sense of intuition, that knowing in your heart, and that always lead you to the right way.
You also mentioned several times about being in a corporate world.
Yeah.
And you jump, right? You
Yeah.
jump out of it. What happened?
Well, I jumped out of it. It's interesting. So I was in the corporate world, and then I experienced that point in time where I felt like whatever I thought would serve me wasn't serving me, and I took a 1-year sabbatical, and then I went back into the corporate world again. But as the universe had their ways, because I was asking for my purpose and my true path, then I encountered a lot of healing journeys, little episodes of, slowly integrating. And then it came a point of time where I was actually, in some ways, I was given the grand kick, I would say, by the universe. Because, I was actually, because of my own healing journey, I went to see a psychic healer. And in our very first reading, she said that you are able to do what I do. And somehow within me, I said, I know. But then, the logical mind says, oh, I probably need more training. Oh, I'm very happy in my corporate job. I should be doing this. And maybe after a few years of training, maybe I'll do what you do. But then the deep inner voice in me, when she said it, was like, I know. And then she said, come for meditation, at my center. And I did that. And, right on from the first meditation onwards, it's like, there's no turning back. The gifts were unraveling. She was like, oh, would you like to do a workshop and do some healing work for people? And I said, yeah, why not? Maybe, but, on weekends, because, I love my corporate job. And then, but as the universe had it, somehow there was a episode where there was a misunderstanding in my work. And somehow the management and I just didn't agree anymore. Yeah, and there it was. It's like, out you go. Like within half a year of knowing that I have these gifts, and in my mind I'm like, a few years, right? But the energy took me on a different route, and the universe rearranged itself in that sense, and that's how I got on my healing journey. But of course, I take personal responsibility for it in the sense that I know that it was my asking. Because even in my journey, when I was searching for myself, I was asking, show me my purpose, and then a lot of things happen. But that's a long story, and my friends always say, you should write a book about this.
You should. And especially because I know corporate words can be quite dry and devastating for some. But there are some people who doesn't know the difference between they're just tired and burn out, or they are really being called out.
Yeah, so for people who are tired and burn out, just really take a break, right? And really go on a journey where you rest deeply, and then you get acquainted with this part of yourself. And I know of many, friends and clients who do that, right? Like they're burnout, they take a break for a while, and then they do some inner work, and then they go back to the corporate world. And as they're back into the corporate world, they are continuing with the inner work or with sessions, right?
Yep.
But then, there are those of us who, you are called to serve, and then you have the abilities, you have the calling. Then I would say, take that leap of faith to learn something and get yourself into the energy first, and then from there, you would know. Because sometimes, if it's not working out, there's a part of you that's wanting something different, but you're not daring to step into it. But if your calling and your gifts are so deep, it would surface. And therefore, you would know that, hey, instead of, just sitting, at the side and feeling miserable, just jump.
Just jump.
Just take a leap. Yeah.
Yeah, because you have that inner compass, right? The intuition is your inner compass, and it will show you.
Yeah.
It always shows you
Yeah.
where to go.
Yeah.
You just have to get reconnected to that inner compass. So, how do you, because you're intuitive anyway from the beginning, right? If somebody comes to you like, I want to learn energy shift, I'm not intuitive. I'm very cerebral. I came straight from corporate.
Great. Yeah, it's like, it's funny because like we were saying earlier, a lot of people are afraid of it. But in fact, there are so many corporate executives who are intuitive. There has been a studies, way back. I can't remember which university in the US it was, but they did a study, and they actually looked at all the corporate executives, and all of them were working on intuition. So the top executives of a lot of companies, they actually utilize intuition instead of, just the logical, decisions. So people who are from the corporate world definitely have a lot of intuition as well. But it's a matter of admitting it and then utilizing it to the best advantage.
So if you were to talk about somebody who is in corporate right now and thinking like, life happens to me, and should I leave this and start a new career? Should I, what would you advise them to do?
I would say learn something, right? Like, get your feet wet. Go try it and you will know, because it will show you. Yeah.
Go try it. Shift your energy.
Yeah, just do something about it. See a practitioner, and then of course we have 3 now in Indonesia doing it. Right?
Yeah, as this podcast is being recorded, we have 3 practitioners of energy shift and insights in Indonesia
already. Yeah.
But Scarlett is just in Singapore, and she comes often. We're gonna make her come often.
Yes, and we can of course connect online.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So go check out the Instagram of Urban Dukun. We always have group sessions, and you can also do one-on-one with each of us. If you feel more comfortable with Scarlett, or you're comfortable doing it in Bahasa, then you have 3 people in Bahasa who's fluent in Bahasa who can help you shift.
And I love it, like as we were talking about this, I just remembered like the other 2 ladies other than Karmen, who is, doing energy shifts and insight. Today is March, right? We're in March 2024. They have only started actually acknowledging their own gifts in November 2023 when we were doing a retreat in Java.
That's right. The self-love retreat.
Yeah,
right?
And that was the first time they actually shared openly about their own intuitive abilities. So imagine how fast it can be when someone, who is in the corporate environment decides that I'm going to share. It's safe for me to talk about my intuition. Yeah. Now they are like flying with, what they see, what they can feel about people, simply because they already have it within them.
Yes, and how they heal.
Yeah.
They heal really fast, and they're also, they are also, I'm losing the word. It's like, they have their own modality now. They have different modalities, and they're combining the modalities with the energy shift and insights.
Yeah.
So,
and all of these happened within that expanse of November until now.
Very fast.
Really fast.
Like, you did a lot of shifts then, yeah?
Yeah, because like one of them, she didn't even learn the other modality before November. It was after the retreat that she said, hey, I'm going to do that.
So, what do you say the energy shift and insight if it's combined with other modalities?
You absolutely can do that. I mean, you can use it for any ways that you want. I have clients who learn it and they don't practice as a practitioner, but they use that for themselves and they use it in their line of work, like even in the corporate setting. Yeah, and if you're a practitioner, whether you are a trainer, whether you are a counselor, whether you're a coach, whether you're Reiki, whether you are someone who, very often we talk about people who do hair, do nails, and do facials. They are a lot of times just healing people because people are pouring their hearts out to them in the middle of their, whatever session that they're having. And this would really serve, these group of professionals well, because they already are providing a healing presence for their clients. But imagine if they were to learn something that could actually support them to really go even deeper into clearing. I think that would be so fantastic.
How about corporate coaches?
Corporate coaches, definitely. A lot of them. I mean, one of our friends, right, who is doing energy shift in Indonesia, she's also a corporate coach, right? And corporate coaches, because you work so much with corporate executives who are working with a lot of people, they need that. I remembered I had this conversation with one of the executive whom I used to work with when we were in the corporate culture building. He went overseas to work for another company, and he came back to Singapore. We had met up for a coffee session, and he told me, I'm so thankful for whatever we have shared, not in energy work, but at that time, because we were doing corporate culture building, and it was a lot about engagement, connection with people, and taking care of themselves as management staff and knowing themselves. And he said that whatever we had set and laid as a foundation in the corporate culture building portion actually supported him a lot, because he says that he could do all the technical part of his job as a managing director, right, just with his eyes closed. But it was really whatever was happening with all the employees, with their own personal problems, with whatever they want to achieve out of life, that was really like this huge mystery for him that he had to learn and build a muscle towards, coaching them, mentoring them, and leading them as a leader in the corporate world. So I find that corporate coaches who are able to help them with the energy shift, they will really be able to support the corporate environment much better, because ultimately human resource is such a big part.
Yes.
And humans, we all come with our own set of personal problems that cannot be easily resolved in the corporate world, because there is no vocabulary, there's no vernacular, there's no system to support them in that way. But if you're able to use energy shift and look at their life in a holistic manner and support them to go out of, the usual ways of solving problem, which is, let's not talk about the personal part.
Yes.
Right? This would be such a great tool.
Because you don't really have to dig into any personal part.
No, we can just look at it from energy. We just say, what's affecting you. Let's recreate whatever is, bothering you. Let's shift out of it.
You don't even need the story, right?
We don't even need a story if they're not comfortable with the story, but they say, I have this challenge and I want to clear it energetically. Let's do it.
Before we close this one session, it's a very enlightening session for me, and I felt so like a kindred spirit among us intuitives. There's no need to fear anymore.
Yeah.
Anything you'd like to share to the audience, Scarlett?
What I would like to share is tap into your heart right now and feel what your heart is telling you. Yeah, and let it come from, however your senses are informing you, whether it's a knowing, whether you're hearing, smelling, feeling. Just let your intuition guide you. Let your inner voice tell you what to do next after hearing us. Yeah.
Terima kasih banyak ya teman-teman sudah meluangkan waktunya untuk mendengarkan kami. Sekarang saatnya teman-teman untuk mendengarkan suara hati dari teman-teman sendiri. Listen to your intuition, dan sampai jumpa lagi.